Okay, so it's just occurred to me that I don't think I've ever talked to you about my Franken setup with my DJI cameras and my ZOOM M3 MicTrak recorder. And so I thought I'd just make a quick video to show you exactly what I use on a fairly regular basis to record audio, but also with the action cameras that I like to use for their stabilization purposes and also recording in 32-bit float as a backup, and outputting to my cameras, and having the option to record both mono and stereo signals if I choose in post. And so, if you didn't know, I am a big proponent of things like 32-bit float and having the ability to get all of the information that you need with regards to audio, and then being able to manipulate that as you see fit later if needed. And so for me, even though I record professionally in 32-bit floating point every day on my interface into my computer, I also in my content creation like to record 32-bit float whenever possible, because I never know when something might happen, when loud sounds might happen that potentially could ruin some portion of a recording. And in those situations, 32-bit float for me acts as a backup recording, because oftentimes whatever I output to camera is actually good enough. And so right now I'm recording this whole thing on my ZOOM M3, and you've been listening to the internal recording. But I've also been sending it directly into my Action 4. And so that's what you're hearing right now. And that is going in via a USB-C cable. So I'm going to flip this around so you can see, maybe. So the beauty of this setup is that the ZOOM M3 can record internally in 32-bit float and also output its audio via USB-C directly into something that accepts USB-C audio. In my case, most of the time it's a computer, but in my case it's the DJI Action cameras. And so in the Action 4, I have the gain set to, I think, plus 10 or plus 12 dB, because you can't set the output of the USB-C from the M3. So you kind of send whatever you're going to send, and that's what you get. And because of that, I also simultaneously record a backup onto the M3 in 32-bit float. Now, the reason why I've been harping so much on wanting to get a camera that records 32-bit float audio is exactly this reason, so that I can use the audio directly in the camera if, that's recorded into the video file, because that streamlines my workflow. But having that redundancy of having an extra file to be able to pull from in case something happens. And that's really what it is, right? It's not that 32-bit float recordings will sound that much better, although in some cases they may. And so when we talk about things like the DJI Action 4 and the Pocket 3 with the DJI Mic 2 that has internal 32-bit float recording, you're gonna find this, and people don't talk about this because I don't know if they even realize it, but the audio recorded internally on the Mic 2 in 32-bit float will sound better than the audio being transmitted via Bluetooth wirelessly to your camera. And that's just the reality. That's how it works. That's why that's the same for the Rode Wireless Pro systems. Same for pretty much anything else that you have the option to record internally or transmit, because they lose some of that audio quality in that transmission process. It's not like you have a hardwire output, which is pretty much outputting the same signal that it's recording in, like in this case, right? And so for me, having that 32-bit floating point recording in the background just makes sense, right? I mean, having your video file and a separate audio file. And for people that say 32-bit float is too big and takes up too much space, to you I say, do you shoot in 4K video? Because if you shoot in 4K video, if you shoot in 2.7K video, you have significantly larger files than 1080p, and the resulting size difference between a 32-bit float file and a 24-bit file at that point is negligible. I'm sorry, I just have to say that because I'm tired of people saying 32-bit float files are too big and they take up too much space, because the reality is, in today's day and age when you can buy micro SD cards that are 1 terabyte in size, yeah, I don't think that that's a valid argument anymore in 2023, 2024. So, but yeah, this setup for me has been really great, because if I wanted to do a walking shot and I wanted to record stereo audio, I could do that. And the Action 4 stabilization is good enough to do that while holding it in front. And then I can set the M3 to stereo mode and capture a stereo field. Or if I wanted to use this in a vlogging scenario, then that's exactly what you're looking at right now. The things that I did to add to this rig that were intentional are a few different accessories. First, on the front, the Action is mounted on a small rig magnetic mount, which has a 1/4-20 thread at the bottom so that I could put it on this extension bar. The extension bar also has a cold shoe piece on the back here so that I can mount my small rig shotgun mount that I like to use with my ZOOM M3, because the shock mount for the ZOOM M3, while fine, it prevents you from actually accessing the battery door if you need to change batteries without taking it in or out of the shock mount, whereas this small rig shock mount for shotgun microphones, yeah, allows you to just have access to the battery compartment, and it fits perfectly with this microphone. And so this setup, along with one single USB-C cable with right angles at both sides, here, I'll show that to you here, maybe. It just makes this setup super streamlined, super convenient. A little on the larger side, but that's only so that I can mount the microphone as close to the lens of the camera as possible and not have the end of the foam windscreen fall into the shot of the Action 4. And so I'll put all the links to all of these things down in the description in case you want to pick something up. This Manfrotto Pixie tripod also was intentional because it has a quick release ball head. And so because the small rig magnetic mount doesn't have any adjustment points, if I need to tilt the camera up or down, that's where the Manfrotto ball head comes in. And so all of this is just a super compact, super intentional, super functional rig that I've been using for like the past year since I got my M3, and I used it with my Action 3, and now I use it with my Action 4. So hopefully this provides you with some kind of inspiration as to the kind of franking cameras you can make to get a 32-bit float recorder into your Action camera. If you have any questions, as always, drop them down in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk again real soon.